Come on in to Margaret McSweeney's Kitchen for Kitchen Chat, where every week you'll meet chefs, cookbook authors, foodies, gourmets, and just plain people who love to eat. And along with laughter, chat, recipes, and stories about food, you'll sometimes also hear words of inspiration, love, and hope. As Margaret always says, Kitchen Chat is food for the senses and food for the soul. So grab a cup of coffee, put your feet up on a comfy chair, and get ready to spend a little time with Margaret and her friends.
Hello, dear foodie friends, and welcome to Kitchen Chat. I'm your host, Margaret McSweeney, and I'm so glad you're joining us here in the beautiful Viking and La Cornue showroom in the Merchandise Mart, here with my dear friend and co-host, Chef Jamie Larita.
I'm still here.
And I am so excited about today's guest. We are going to learn all about spirits. Yes, with Monique Huston, who is the National Director of Winebow Spirits. Welcome to Kitchen Chat.
Thank you, Margaret. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited too. Jamie, I don't know a whole lot about spirits and distilling and all of that. And Monique, you have such a unique perspective on this.
It's interesting. It's, no one can say that they grew up yearning, to study these things. Obviously, we all had to be 21 before we really got into it.
That's right, kids.
Yes.
You heard it here first. Only
first.
Over 21.
Yep,
Yes.
Exactly. You can still listen, but don't drink any of
Right.
this.
Right.
No drinking.
So, yeah, I really, I started life studying engineering and found it to be quite boring. So I like to say I began studying wine, which just meant drinking quite a bit of it, and then heard that people could get a sommelier certification, so kind of like a degree in wine. Who knew? And, this is 20 plus years ago, or now I'm aging myself. But then that really quickly moved into a great love of spirits. So a lot of my life is concerned now with spirits, including my favorites, Scotch and Mezcal. Fortunately, things that are really trending and wonderful right now. So.
I've had a lot of training with Mezcal.
And what does
recently,
that mean, Jamie?
Drinking, especially in Tulum in Mexico. And also I've had some training with Scotch.
So it's good fun, and I'm finding that a lot of people don't really think about the connections between food and spirits. We very often think about, for a long time, we thought about pairing wine with food, and then that's kind of moved into pairing beer with food, and now, thankfully, for me, in my business, it's really grown into pairing neat spirits with food, cocktails with food, and really just broadening.
Sure, I mean, cocktails have always been in our lives, but these days in all the restaurants worldwide, cocktails are pretty much at the forefront. Mixologists are becoming the celebrities of the restaurant now.
I've asked them, they have become the celebrities.
Right.
I'm not a fan of the word mixologist. We're hoping that it goes away.
What would you rather I say?
No, I'm not beating up on you.
No, don't beat me up, first of all. I'm very, very, very fragile. But what's the proper word?
It's interesting. A friend of mine said mixologists serve drinks, bartenders serve people. And to me, as with food, it's about your guest. And it's about the guest experience. And I got a little exhausted, let's say 5 to 7 years ago. You would go to a spot to have a cocktail, and you might wait 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, while the magician disappeared behind the curtain, and they're smoking things and spraying things and all this. I just want to drink. It's Friday.
Girl, I'm
right
with
now,
you.
5
I'm with
o'clock.
you. I'm with you.
Yeah, so I want to get back to it being about, yes, super high quality ingredients put together in a really thoughtful way that tastes absolutely brilliant. But I'd like it to take a minute, and I want engagement. I want conversation. I bartended for years. So I'm really happy to see people getting back to it being about service level. I think it's really important.
So bartenders, the term.
Bartender. Heck yeah.
I'm with you. I mean, I don't go and say, why don't we go see our mixologist?
Yeah.
I don't say
I've got a problem.
Yeah.
I need a prescription.
Exactly.
We hope not. But yeah, a lot of them are really stars. We've seen a good friend from Chicago, Charles Jolie, just did the cocktails for the Oscars for the umpteenth time.
Wow.
So a lot of talent right here in Chicago. Amazing cocktails to be had, along with all of our food.
And there's a real science and preparation and study to get to that level. You're telling me about, we all know about sommeliers, but what is it about spirits? What is, and in London, what?
Well, so spirits, so even to become a sommelier, you have to have a lot of knowledge about spirits. So it's not just about the grapes and the different varietals and the appellations. You have to learn about spirits, the service of spirits, making cocktails. You need to know the difference between brandy, which is essentially distilled wine, distilled fruit, and mezcal, which is distilled agave or whiskey. And more, I mean, unfortunately for some of the wine people, the trends actually now are that people are moving away from wine and more into spirits. And we all know craft beer is way, way up, but your kind of everyday, those kind of, lager beers, those people are turning into spirits drinkers. And
so would you say that was at over the last 5 years, the growth?
Absolutely.
Because I know with the brand, I had my own wine brand in the market.
That's right.
And I noticed that the distributor that I was with started, this was going back 4 years ago, they started their own arm of spirits.
Yes.
And that's the reason why.
Very much so. And so we see, not to abuse, millennials, but we see a lot of millennials really trending towards spirits. We actually see overall people drinking less, people drinking lower alcohol, people drinking healthier. But when they are drinking, they're drinking a bit more expensive, a bit more high end, and really looking, as we were talking about earlier, for transparency. Transparency in every single level.
And this is so mind-boggling. Could you please share with all of us about what you see on the bottle and read on the bottle isn't really what it
can be very misleading.
is.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we were talking about if you're looking at a whiskey and it doesn't actually say the words distilled in place X, distilled in Chicago, Illinois. If it says produced, if it says bottled, if it says the water was sourced at place X, those terms don't legally mean anything. The only thing on the bottle that means something is distilled in this particular place. So a lot of distilleries, when they first start, they don't have aged whiskey. So if somebody starts a distillery in your neighbor's garage and tomorrow they have 4-year-old bourbon, well, we know that your neighbor Bob didn't make that 4-year-old bourbon. He sourced it from a distillery somewhere. There's no problem with that, as long as you're transparent about it. So some companies have really made a great name for themselves in sourcing fabulous whiskey and adding their own spin to it, blending it well, or finishing it in a sherry wine barrel or something unique. Other folks have gotten in trouble, even legal trouble, by not disclosing those details and having them exposed. So we love it. I mean, people are asking really hard questions, and the folks, that have spirits and things that we should be drinking are able to answer them.
And do you find, as a chef and going to way too many restaurants lately, so fluffy here. It's been so cold here in Chicago. All I do is eat. But do you find that with spirits, just like food trends happen, fashion trends happen, are there spirit trends that happen?
Absolutely.
And what's trending right now?
You just hit on one. I mean, Mezcal and Tulum. I mean, that's a thing. We've got if we want to sip on a little Mezcal, I brought a little secret Mezcal and a little bit of whiskey. I got to, have whiskey will travel. You want to know why women carry those huge bags? For me, it's because we're carrying spirits around.
I knew it.
Yes, exactly. But Mezcal is definitely a big trend. People are really hip to looking at a sense of terroir in spirits, a sense of the land, a sense of the rain patterns, the weather patterns, where things come from. And agave is really special in that it's the only organic material that we drink a distillate that's made from it, but it doesn't mature year on year. This particular one is a tepestate varietal from some dear friends of mine at La Locura, so an amazing distiller down in Oaxaca, Mexico.
You'll have to smell this.
And this particular type, so a lot of agave that we drink, so tequila is made from one type of agave. Mezcal is made from many types of agave. This comes from a type called tepestate. These plants can take 20, 30 years to mature one time.
Wow, this is really
so the output of this enormous plant is that it matures one time, and we take it out of the ground and process it, and maybe it makes one bottle of something. So you end up with something with 25 years of the land and the weather all in one bottle. When you smell it, just green.
It took me right back to Mexico. Like I was in.
And you're sitting upright.
I am. For the moment, but no, it's just really fresh. It's like I could. Later, I'm going to be tasting this, by the way, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And what's in the other little bottle?
The other one is interesting. This is a project that some friends of mine, the company is actually called That Boutique Whiskey Company. They're very boutique. Doesn't even say it on the bottle. It's a top secret bottle. They are creating a world blend of whiskeys. So this is a first. But we're in this very global society. We can all go online. We can all go anywhere, visit each other all over the place. This is a blend of Canadian whiskey, American bourbon, Taiwanese, Japanese, Scotch whiskey, all blended together to be this amazing, super drinkable. You like whiskey, I like whiskey. We hope Margaret likes whiskey. With a name like McSweeney, you've got to be drinking whiskey.
It's an acquired name.
It's an acquired taste, probably.
Yes, and so you're really taking a sip of the world.
You're giving me, like, in this, I'm feeling like everything that you said, but it's fruity. It's almost like there's an undertone of grape. Like, it's got apricot, and it's very...
That's all coming from the whiskey, which is amazing. And so intended to be, if I wanted to drink it neat or on the rocks, great. But globally, a lot of people consume it with soda or green tea or coconut water. So it's intended to be consumed the way that people all over the world are drinking it.
Can I pour it in my kombucha?
Absolutely. I bet it's great.
Oh, this will be fun to watch.
He's a mixologist.
And of legal age.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the important thing. And if you thought that kombucha couldn't be improved upon.
That's actually super delicious.
Right?
Wow.
Now
who ever thought of whiskey and kombucha?
I hadn't.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
It's called the Jamie. I want to be like, what's it, the Vesper that James Bond drinks?
Yeah.
That's my drink. I want my own drink. This
Jamie,
could be
yes.
The Jamie.
The Jamie.
Or
yes.
the Jam. That's too French. Jamie means, like, the way I spell it is love. I don't know. We got to name this thing.
Yes.
Try that.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm jealous now. Okay. Oh, it's actually really good. It actually is really good.
Okay, well, cheers.
We're doing it. We're jumping in. I think that kombucha is really good.
Did I tell you I had the worst cold?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just kidding.
Wow.
It's actually quite
It
good.
is.
It's quite delicious.
It is.
Love it.
So what's trending right now is
Mezcal's
mezcal.
really trending. Transparency is really trending. Being able to answer every question. So we get a lot of the stories are true, but we also get a lot of fabricated stories. Oh, so and so was a moonshiner out in their garage, and I'm retooling this recipe from 150 years ago. We like stories, and we're all storytellers, but many cases not accurate. So people are digging deeper and deeper, and there's a lot of authentic stories out there.
Yeah, and I feel like, being in the wine business myself, it's very interesting to me to see all of these boutique-y things coming out. But in your opinion, obviously quality is, I'm sure, of utmost importance to you. But what about the label?
The label, the label has to be able to sell the bottle almost on its own.
I know.
Because most of us see that label on a bar or that label on the store shelf, and if it doesn't call out to us enough to go and grab it and turn it around and take next steps, we've done a disservice to whatever's in it, no matter what. We do a lot of label comparisons. People like to see years, like this company was established in 1880. That's like, whoa, it's been around for 140 years. Okay, so that must be good. Vintages. If you're looking at a whiskey, I think very often people, 12-year-old, 18-year-old. I can afford the 18-year-old. It's more expensive. It must be better.
I feel like I'm overindulged when I go into, a mega center of spirits and wines. There's almost too much to look at. And I think myself, I'm different. I know what I'm buying. I know what I want. But the general consumer, I think, doesn't. They're overwhelmed.
They're overwhelmed. I mean, we have a powerful computer in our pockets. So you see a lot of people then engaging at the shelf level with with their phone, but also you've got, obviously here in Chicago we've got a Binny's just down the street. The education level that they want all of their people. I mean, it's
I love Binny's. Binny's, they hire the right people. They are educated
and they
people.
train them.
Right.
I mean, that's the biggest thing. Is I get brought in very often. A lot of people from my team to do wine education, spirits education.
Been there, done that.
Exactly.
Yes, I remember.
But otherwise, you are lost, and you see somebody kind of standing there. I can't help it. I go into a store, and if I see somebody standing there just looking at 300 whiskey expressions. They don't know me, but you're going to get a whole big lesson from me. But, to walk down and say, well, what are you trying to decide between? What do you like? And people are so grateful, to just say, oh, I've heard of, Pappy Von Winky. Do you know what that is? Can you help me find something like it? Sure.
And what is Pappy Von Winky?
It's not real.
Okay.
I just made it up.
All right.
I was like,
I didn't hear
like
that.
a dog head. I was like,
no, there's a very hard to find whiskey brand that sounds a lot like that.
Okay.
And a few years ago, an article was written called "The Bourbon Billionaires Can't Buy." What do you do? Tell the billionaires they can't buy something. So it became just impossible to find. And on the day that these whiskeys get released into like Binny's, people know it. They start doing stuff on Facebook. They are at the store at 8 a.m. waiting at the front door.
And so can you share with us some of the stories with Winebow? Because you go out and find these producers. What has been most intriguing about that?
I mean, these are both, like, they're just amazing families to work with. Another one that we started recently working with, there's a single malt Scotch brand in Scotland, which Scotland's my favorite place. I had known for a long time a good friend, Billy Walker, who had owned 2 distilleries and recently sold them off, and 70 years old, takes this money and turns around, could just retire, but instead sets his family up and decides, I'm going to go buy another distillery. So he goes back to a huge company, the company that makes Chivas. He goes back to Pernod and says, do you have another distillery maybe that you want to sell me? I think I can help build a brand again. At that age. And so they sold him another distillery with 40,000 barrels of whiskey. And he is now blending a new range of whiskeys for them. And so we had a great friendship, and so we have now started importing their brand in the United States. And it's so much fun to get to be a storyteller for Billy and go out and talk about his decades of work in the industry, the other brands that he built. But, he's just one man, and he's got a small and growing staff there, but we are his, not only eyes and ears and his feedback on the ground, we are the people that can carry forth his story here of just this, one little tiny distillery in Scotland. So we're really fortunate.
And then going back to the food end of things, obviously that's where I love to focus. And here in the Viking Range La Cornue showroom in the Merchandise Mart, we do a lot of events. We actually have in our brand from Middleby, we have our own beer taps, and we have lots of fun stuff to play with. What do you think of our showroom?
I was saying it's like a free museum where you can touch things. It's so beautiful. I am so envious. The ideas are spinning, and I don't own a place that I can build a kitchen in.
Yeah, well, just so you know, we do tons of events with all the top designers and architects and movers and shakers and socialites and chefs here in our showroom. Feel free to come back and do some wine pairings with me on our appliances. I'm always cooking something amazing on my Viking range in the kitchen. We can have some fun here.
I think we're talking about maybe doing a whiskey event. I would love it. I'd be honored. Yeah,
Winebow is someone that I looked at as a distributor and never made contact with them, so you may hear from me in the future.
Yes, and another story to tell, and that's quite a story with Jamie. Oh, this is so exciting. Well, thank you so much for being on Kitchen Chat and really expanding my understanding of the spirits and everything. Now, I always like to leave in the show with a tip, maybe some tips about what someone should look for before purchasing spirits.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we do one tip for that?
Okay.
Another way to, because I don't think a lot of people really truly understand how long a good spirit lasts.
Oh, that's true.
Absolutely. Maybe a good tip for what you can buy and how long it lasts. I mean, let's face it. They have people. I know people. I'm one of them that may have something in my bar that should be replaced.
That's an interesting question. So spirits, by nature, they're distilled, so they're no longer alive. The reason that wine and beer can go bad is because there's live yeast in the bottle.
Right.
Spirits can't go bad. So if the bottle is unopened, right now, people are making more money off vintage whiskey than watches and gold.
Yeah,
so collecting spirits, investing in spirits is a great idea.
So they'll never go bad?
They will never go bad.
On
as long
good
as
hands.
they're unopened, you're in good hands.
Oh, wait. What about if they're open?
If they're open, they're actually still fine. They'll start to oxidize. They might start to come down a little bit in alcohol. And this is kind of spirits, so not vermouth, which is wine, not sherry, which is wine. They kind of all get lumped in sometimes. But spirits will actually last forever. So vodka, gin, all those things, fine. Whiskey, though, collectible. I mean, so that's a good one to look for. If you are into Scotch and there's Ardbeg, for example, has a new release of Ardbeg every year, buy one. Buy two.
Okay.
Actually, no, buy two. That's a great piece of advice. Buy two. Keep one and drink it. Keep one. And by the time the next year's release comes out, it's probably worth twice as much money.
I never knew whiskey could be an investment.
And then where do you sell it?
There's auctions, there's trade groups, there's all kinds of things. There's auctions. There's one here locally. Hart Davis Hart is about to hold the largest spirits auction in the United States.
Who knew?
Wow.
I probably have some value in my cupboard.
That
in my
open
bar.
bottle of Seagram 7 is not going to do it.
I might have a couple of closed ones, though. Yeah, because I buy things based on impulse sometimes, and then I never open them.
There you go.
Yeah, sometimes I like the bar to look pretty too. So
Google it.
I will.
So what is the most expensive bottle
I knew that was
has ever sold?
Almost always bottles of Macallan single malt. So Macallan is a very iconic brand. A lot of the whiskeys aged in sherry wine casks, the older ones, especially from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. But recently one sold at auction for over $1 million.
What?
Wow.
For one bottle of scotch from the 1920s. But other bottles of Macallan, the more...
So from the 1920s. So if you're 1920s, you're pretty old now. Yeah. We got to find those people.
But the whiskey hasn't aged. It stays the same.
That's what I'm saying.
It stays the same in the bottle.
the same.
Yep. $1 million. But bottles that I bought 10 years ago, worth over $5,000, $10,000. It's unbelievable.
This is really a change of mindset where you can look at it as an investment. Your bar is an investment.
I always thought it was a bad investment until now.
It's a good investment.
All right.
Well, thank you so much, Monique. This was so much fun. And we'll make sure we have a link to Winebow as well. And thank you, Jamie. And we want to thank you, dear foodie friends. Cheers to you. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Make sure you visit Jamie Larita in the Viking La Cornue showroom, Merchandise Smart, Suite 137. And also visit me in my kitchen, kitchenchat.info, and also thevikinglife.com. And always remember to take a moment and savor the day.
Thanks for joining Margaret for Kitchen Chat today. Margaret would be so excited for you to drop by and visit with her at kitchenchat.info, where you'll enjoy podcasts, blogs, recipes, tips from chefs, and even great giveaways. She invites you to share your recipes and kitchen stories too. As Margaret always says, savor the day.